You're listening to Cain, Randy, and Brooke on Scratch the Vinyl.
All right, party people, welcome back to Scratch the Vinyl. You made it back for another week, and we're glad that you did. We are here, and we're pumped about yet another protest songs, the 100 Best Protest Songs episode. We went through it last week, and now we're going to do it again this week, and we're just going to start piling through the list, giving you guys our takes, and working through it because I think that these are so important to people when it comes to music, and it just kind of goes way beyond all of that. So unfortunately, we don't have the tripod to the old stand here. We don't have Brooke here. She's out fighting fires in California or something. I don't know. She's just got some things going on. We miss her, but she's going to be back here very soon. But I do have somebody who you guys all know. I have the chill man himself. I have the Godzilla of entertainment when it comes to Lincoln and beyond. I have Randy Wilson. Randy, how are you doing?
Well, Cain, how are you doing today? I look forward to doing part 2 of our protest song series. And I got a lot of good feedback after our first episode. I hope we get a lot of new listeners for this series because we are tackling a lot of important topics and highlighting some stuff that's in the past, but only seems to be relevant still today. So I look forward to getting our takes down today. And I also want to give a big shout out to you yesterday. We spent a lot of time in the studio and we've been working a lot of music and a lot of stuff for the show. And I'm pretty excited about what's going on right now.
Yeah, we've got big things coming up ahead. You and I have things in the works that people never even knew. I mean, we have massive things going on here in the studio. We're here in luxurious Shoeline Records studios, and we got the waves crashing out in front of us, right? We have palm trees, we had a drink in our hand and a guitar in the other, and it was a constant party. It was awesome.
It was. I felt like it was only 25 degrees. I had my hot cup of coffee, and you shoved me in a very enclosed, cold sound booth, and we cut a bunch of music.
I like to pretend that it's all of that. Being here in the Midwest, I tell people all the time, I should be tropical. This body deserves to be in a tropical location, and someday we're going to get there with Scratch the Vinyl.
Well, I like your mindset. We definitely warmed up as the day went along, and I felt really good about what we got accomplished, and I look forward to cutting this episode today. I think our fans are going to enjoy another great segment to our protest series. And a lot of people don't know, of course, by the time this airs, there is going to be a big protest in all 50 states happening on this day as we're cutting this, just kind of fighting a lot of the topics we're talking about right now.
Well, and there's a call to some of the listeners out there who are musicians to write those protest songs. If you have something to say, I can't think of a better platform than to get your poetry out there and get your words out there, get your anger out, and do it in a controlled form where you're not acting a fool. You're not lighting Molotov cocktails and throwing them at people and doing all this crazy stuff. Fight it with words. Use your words. Use your talents. So we're going to get into this list, and they're doing exactly that. They're fighting in their own way. And this particular 10 that we're going through, it is a massive 10 here. It just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, as we dived into all these songs, it was another collection of some serious topics with some great groups from a kind of a wide range of time again, from the 60s to today. And let's just get into it. I think we got to kick things off with number 90 on our Rolling Stones top 100 list with Eve of Destruction by Barry McGuire.
Absolutely. This was a blast to listen to. This had that folk acoustic thing going on, the Bob Dylan thing, you know, if I have to. I mean, the most famous of them all. But I loved it all around. But well, let's talk about what they were tackling here. I mean, what this is 1965. It's chaotic in the mid 60s. They've got Vietnam going on. They've got the Arab-Israeli wars and conflicts going on. The Cold War is going on. Nuclear anxieties. Everything is kind of popping off here in this song. It really dives into all of that.
Well, I do remember this song really well as a kid growing up. And ironically, I have a singer at my shows that shows up about once or twice a year. It's the only song he does. And I might be the only person that knows all the words and sings along with it. But it does. It tackles all the things you mentioned, plus civil rights. I mean, this song was written by P.F. Sloan. And he was quoted as saying this. He wrote this song as a prayer to God, looking for answers to all the strife and conflict going on in the world.
The delivery and everything. I love this particular sing. I love that gravelly voice that he has. It's just it's just a classic anthem. I can't believe somebody out there are they a younger guy or an older guy singing this?
It's an older guy. I mean, it's definitely people that resonate with the 60s and 70s music and really what was really a lot of Vietnam protest songs. But this song touched on just about everything that was going on in society at the time. And there's lyrics all through this song that touch on all those anxieties. One of my favorite quotes in that song is, which I think relates today, hate your neighbor, but don't forget to say grace. And it's just kind of that point again where you have these people, these populist movement of Christian populism, but they don't realize their hypocrisy when it comes to how they even treat their own neighbors in our own country, because we're all Americans.
Right. Look, God, what's going on out there? If there is a God out there, why is all this happening? And I think that he penned a masterpiece here.
Yeah, I mean, they banned this song on the radio, of course, for quite a while. But once it got out there, they couldn't stop it. And so there was a big movement, of course, in the 60s to stop Vietnam. And this was one of those pretty typical protest songs that resonates with a lot of people.
And it's from a time where they started to become more militant when it comes to protesting. And it kind of set the stage for, like you talked about, we have protests going on now. People are getting out there and they're following kind of the same game plan that they started in these times. And we're going through some wild times right now. And people are already getting fed up with it. So I think that this list here will help fuel their fire.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple more songs on our list today. They're going to kind of touch on this same subject, but it's really it's, young people rising up and using music as a form of getting that message out. And I think that's how it resonates with everyone.
Well, let's move on to the next one. We have number 89. We have Crass. Do They Owe Us a Living? 1978. This is anarchist punk at its best. These guys are from Essex County. They are my favorite, which is they're British, and British punk is even better. And this song was very cool to listen to. I'd never heard it before, much like a lot of the songs on the list, but I'm glad I did. I now have it on my playlists. But they're tackling some kind of local things going on and issues. And what I loved about it was, as I dug into it a little bit more, they actually took this from a poem of somebody from a commune that they were a part of, and they made it their own. And I just thought, man, it's a super cool song.
Yeah, I'd never heard this song before either, but as soon as I started playing it, it was pretty obvious it was right in tune with a lot of that British punk scene and that, that hard beat tackling, the social injustice that's going on over there, or was going on over there, still is today. The lyrics are pretty plain to see. I mean, the whole song is, do they owe us a living? And the answer is, yes, they fucking do. And that's the anthem to the song. So for our listeners, sorry we use cuss words on the show, but it's straight from the song.
It is. Well, let's address that for a second. When it comes to music, people get so uptight about cursing and in the art form, but I don't think so. Like, especially in books, in all this type of art, if that's how they chose to express themselves, I don't see anything wrong with saying it ourselves, right? So, I mean, yeah, if they say they say yes, they fucking do, then you know what? I'm good with that. Those are their words. We're spitting it out. If you get uncomfortable with that, you're probably not going to like the rest of this list.
I mean, it's heavy punk rock and it's anger. And I think most of the time, cuss words kind of fill that bill when it comes to anger, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, this band reminded me, I would love to see this band and the Sex Pistols on a bill together. Maybe I'm sure they did. I mean, but man, talk about a chaotic show to go to see bands like these. I mean, it's nonstop protest all the time. It's people slamming against each other, throwing their fists in the air, yelling out loud. It would be fantastic.
I know you love a lot of that metal and punk stuff, and so do I. So if we could have been around at that time, we definitely would have went to see those shows.
Of course. Well, then looking at the original poem, what's interesting is the poem that they took it from, "Do they owe the chicken whose neck they chopped for dinner a living?" is basically the line that they took, and they just decided to kind of move it around, make it a little more punk, which that line's pretty punk in general, but it doesn't kind of come off the lips like the other things do. And they did a great job. This is a killer protest song.
Yeah, the truth is, you don't even have to know the lyrics, and the sound is just typical British punk rock. I mean, you just rage to it anyways.
Yeah, heavy British accent. It's perfect all around. So the next one on the list, though, is going to be something completely different. Let's get to number 88 here. So, Un Derecho de Nacimiento by Natalia Lafourcade and a bunch of other names.
Yeah, I'll list them off. Carla Morrison, Julieta Venegas, Alan Ortiz, Madame Reclaimer, and Manuel Torreblanca.
There we go. Hey, it's nice kind of connecting with our inner Latino feelings and everything. But the main person on this, so Natalia, who they're talking about here, was one of the voice on it. When you listen to this song, I mean, it's really haunting. And so this is what I love about songs like this is I don't have to understand the words. I don't need a translator to tell me what they're trying to say. But once you start to dig into it in the Spanish to English translation, you get a lot more feel for it. But this was just a really killer song. I mean, I added it to my playlist immediately.
Well, yeah, it had that Latin with the horns, and it was actually a really hopeful, positive message song. I had a lot of it translated, and again, a song I'd never heard of, wasn't obviously that into Latin protests, but this song was kind of an anthem song to a movement they called Yo Soy 132, which in Spanish is I am 132. And our listeners may ask, well, what does that mean? Well, it was named after the 131 original protesters for this movement, which was started basically on university campuses in Mexico, both public and private, as a way to kind of protest the presidential elections there in 2012.
Right, and the media bias that they had there, which really kind of ticked them off. They felt like the media was so biased at that time that they're basically pushing that particular candidate for president, which we know that happens on some scales and it doesn't in others. So, but they did something about it.
Yeah, they were protesting Enrique Peña Nieto as the president of Mexico at the time. And what they were really trying to accomplish with this protest was to get a second presidential debate. The media was, basically helping protect the PRI, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, and they were fighting for real elections, real democracy. I mean, they wanted real elections, and we've seen a little of that here in the U.S. in recent years now. I mean, these things become very important. and they were tired of the political corruption. And that seems to go hand in hand when you have media supporting a far right candidate that wants to keep that political corruption and wants to control the election so they stay in power. Didn't keep Enrique from becoming president, but the movement did get the second debate, and it also got a third debate with all the three losing candidates at the time. So at least got their messages out to the people.
Which is a win. I mean, a win is getting something to happen from your protesting, from the movement that you create. And they did exactly that.
And they did most of the protesting. It got as much attention as it did. In fact, it got over like 50 cities around the world to get involved because they were using online activism. So they were using all the tools they had at the time to get this message out.
And using the old tricks of going to campuses and different things, and getting our future leaders of all different countries involved at the campuses themselves, getting them involved and having them care about something.
Well, obviously, it's worked over time. They have made some changes, and they now have a new president, Claudius Scheinbaum.
Let's talk song-wise, though. How'd you feel about this song? Did you enjoy it? I mean, to me, just listening to it was very pleasing to the ears.
Yeah, like I said, it had that kind of traditional Latin beat. It was very upbeat with a hopeful message. It's not hard to see why this was a good anthem song for their protests.
I think the English translation for the title is Birthright, if I remember right. I mean, it's a lot of words. I know languages are confusing to people. It's a lot of words to say one thing, but from what I read, it's Birthright. So I think it kind of sums up what was going on there and the kind of the injustices that they were going through and the bias of the particular candidate that they're talking about.
Well, we might have to take note to that message because people following along in the news today, there's been some questions whether the United States should end birthright citizenship. And so this message just wasn't for Mexico. It's for all of us.
We could see a whole bunch of, I mean, there's protesting going on now. The judges are looking at it. We could see a whole line of protest songs. I can't wait to see what people come up with on that particular issue and many others going on right now.
Well, I think that's why we're doing this series of protest songs, because we're kind of, in some ways, kind of enlightening ourselves to some of the strife and troubles that people have been fighting for a long time.
Well, this is kind of our way, too, of protesting. I mean, the radio has been doing it forever. And even though they like to silence these guys, this is the beauty of the podcast age. So we can come on here. It's our platform. We can talk about this stuff. And we're doing it in our own way. We're doing it, tying music into it. But we're telling you guys as listeners to stop sitting on your hands. Stop letting this stuff happen around you and just saying, ho hum, somebody will change something someday. Well, you know what? Nobody's going to change anything unless you do something about it. And that's what these songs are about.
That's a good message. And I think it's more important now than ever to have independent media. And if music's a way to get it out there, then we are doing our best here at Scratch the Vinyl.
I think now's as good a time as any to move on to number 87 on our list. This one is from Self-Destruction. It's the Stop the Violence movement. This song right here, this is a huge song to talk. There's a lot to unpack here. So I think that we should give it its proper time. First off, this was a song where basically the best of the best in New York at the time got together and they put together this, and I'm talking the best and best in rap and hip hop. We're talking huge names here, aren't we?
Yeah, and of course, look, I mean, this is, for me in time, I mean, this is the late 80s. This is the vergence of hip hop. We're starting to, I mean, we have MTV. We're starting to get our first glimpses out of the East and West Coast of what the culture is about and what the music's about. Bottom line, this was a protest song against violence in hip hop communities. I mean, straight out of New York. Really, every big rap artist at the time got involved in to try to stop violence in their communities. And I mean, I have a little background on this song. I love the song. I mean, it was to the point, and it started with there was a young kid killed at a Boogie Downs production and Public Enemy show. And in retrospect, after that, one of the founding members of Boogie Down Productions, Scott LaRock, was also murdered. So this was, with a heavy heart, these artists got together to try to shine a light on, violence in their community, and they wanted to stop.
Well, yeah, and they got some star power here. I mean, they got KRS-One, Kool Moe Dee, MC Lyte, just to name a few. Public Enemy was on this as well, but also LL Cool J was on this, even though he was told not to be a part of it. Don't go there, they said. Don't go there and be a part of that. LL Cool J said, I'm not listening to any of that, and he goes there and he helps them. It's amazing. I for whatever reason, this one missed me, probably because I was young as it was happening. I really had no idea about this one.
Well, ironically, I did. And I was kind of, like I said, this was kind of early on in my first experiences in hip hop. And they've also put out a VH1 tape to go along with their cassette, and, getting the exposure to this. I mean, I'm going to highlight probably a lot of people you just said, but, with Boogie Down Productions, you had KRS-One with D Nice and Miss Melody. You had Stetisonic, Big Daddy O, MC Delight, Wise, and Frau Quan. Then you had Kool Moe Dee, MC Lyte, Dougie Fresh, Just Ice, Heavy D. You already said Public Enemy with Chuck D and Flava Flav. You also had Big Daddy Kane making an appearance. I mean, these were the heavy hitters back then. I mean, this was, this is what East Coast rap was all about at the time.
Yeah, I mean, look at that list of artists that you just mentioned. I named a few. I'm glad you went down the list because there's so much more. This is as star-studded of a rap or hip-hop cast as I've ever seen on any song.
Yeah, me and you have a buddy, Reese, who is like an encyclopedia to this stuff. And so we're giving a big shout out to Reese. He should come on the show with us. But these guys were the player. I mean, this is what the culture was about back then. These guys were the hitters. And I mean, this song in particular, even though this is kind of the only thing they all collaborated on, I mean, this song went to #1 for 10 weeks on the Billboard's Hot Rap Song. And it had an impact. I mean, they were, basically saying, quit killing ourselves, quit killing each other. Our music is to fight the power, and I mean, it definitely was a highlight to what the struggle in the culture was all about.
Well, and this song should be higher up the list, in my opinion, but this is a great list so far. Let's look at the lyrics for a second. I never run from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't have to run from a black man. That's pretty strong right there. Yeah, they're not going to back down, but they shouldn't have to back down to their own people and to their own plight. I loved it. It's classic hip hop. The sound is great. Everything about it this one should be way up the charts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, like I said, this was at a time period when, even young guys like me in the Midwest were starting to get a taste of what the real hip hop was about. And here they are, even shining a spotlight on their own plight in their own communities right there.
I really would. I would love to have Reese's take on this, because I know that I know that he's like me. He's a connoisseur of West Coast rap. I know he grew up in Long Beach, but he loves this old hip hop. And I would just love to get his take on it. So maybe one of these days we'll get some extra content or something out there. We'll get him on and we'll kind of pick his interesting brain. And I mean, interesting as in he's literally an encyclopedia of not only rap, but music in general. You can basically ask him anything.
In fact, as we're going along, with this series, and we've got a lot of songs to get through here over the next several weeks. And any of our listeners or artists that are out there that are Scratch the Vinyl fans that want to reach out to us and maybe do a short segment on some of these songs or what some of these protests were about, we'd love to do some even bonus material to some of these songs. And I think this is still a topic that's relevant today. I mean, we're still dealing with inner city violence and shootings. This topic hasn't gone away.
No, it hasn't. It reminds me of like sitting down and the sock to the stomach when you watch like Boys in the Hood and stuff like, and watch the violence against each other. And it's not just in the Black communities; it's in all communities. But in this particular song, they're talking about what's happening to them in their community, their people, and so you have to appreciate the words and just the artistry that went into this to protest this.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. We're now past 50 years of hip hop. So this music is still relevant. It's still around today and only getting stronger. And getting that message out is still important in the culture. So,
and can you imagine that when you say 50 years out loud on some of this stuff? Think about in the 80s, you're looking back 50, you're talking about people doing the Charleston and doing all, and you think like, man, that's ancient times. But when I look at this stuff, it for me, it doesn't age the same. It feels like it was only yesterday. All of this stuff is so relevant to today. But like, I don't know, it just, the decades thing kind of blows me away. Just time is moving by so fast, Randy. It really is.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, when I think of the 80s, of course, big hair bands, the punk scene, the synth punk scene, there was a lot to the 80s, power ballads, and the rock scene was still strong. But this was the time frame of that birth of hip hop. It's here to stay, and it's very relevant.
I would love to get into a long debate or talk about the current state of rap and where it is sometime. I know we don't have time to do it on this show, but I definitely want to dive into that. So once again, like Randy said, if there's anybody listening out there that they want to ask us, hey, what are the next 10 on the list? But, maybe I want to get in on this. Please do. Please get a hold of us at scratchthevinylpodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us on all of our socials, including Facebook, the Gram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. Just comment anywhere. We need you guys. We want to hear from you. I hope you guys are enjoying the list so far. And just keep listening, everybody. This is how we protest some of this.
Well, let's move on to the last song in this five before we hit our kind of our roundup before we hit the bottom five. At number 86 is, of course, one of our favorite bands, System of the Down with BYOB.
Yep.
Bring your own bombs.
Bring your own bombs. When you say BYOB, you think it's a party. And that's what I love about this song is this is my time, Randy. Here I am. It's in the early 2000s and I'm listening to new metal. And I remember this song coming on and just thinking about even at that time, what an amazing song this is. It almost has like a disco party feel to it at first, but then it blasts off into heavy metal. And it's just, I love this song.
Yeah, me too. Of course, I remember this song very well when it first came out. I think 2005, I think. And, again, you're right. It has that heavy metal to it, and then it kicks into that melodic sound, and then you get the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics are plain to see. I mean, you're protesting the Iraq-Afghan war. They're pissed at George Bush and basically saying, we're tired of all the poor people going to fight the wars. If the presidents had to go fight their own wars, would we have any wars?
Exactly. And that's been going on forever. I mean, what if we sent our presidents like they did back in the Middle Ages? What if they sent their best people to fight it out instead of sending everyone else to go out and die for a cause that they either don't believe in or whatever. But they go and they attack the poor and they wave money around in front of their faces so they can go buy a new car and do all this. And they send them to war. And for what?
Well, back then, what? For oil, money, global dominance. I'm not sure some things have changed, I'm afraid.
I think you're right. And this band in general, I mean, I know that the guitarist, I think he's Armenian. They've seen some things. I mean, Serge himself is an interesting guy as a lead guy. He's always been a weird, kind of eccentric, the type of guy you think would be the lead of a band. And their style is very different, but it really drives home the way they do it. This is a perfect song for protest, and I'm glad they came out with it. They're sick of George Bush and all this crazy stuff that they're doing. And like many in the Middle East, I think they're just crying out, asking, when is it all going to stop? All right, well, now is as good a time as any. We've kind of reached the halfway point. We've got through some great songs. We have some more songs to dive into, but let's get into the people, places, and things that help this show continue on, that keep the lights on, that keep us going, that support us and make things go. So let's dive into the local roundup, and then we will get back to the 100 best protest songs. Welcome to the Late Late Show with your host, Squatch.
Welcome to the show, everybody. We have a controversial guest tonight. He claims to have the world's smelliest beard and doesn't plan to do anything about it in the foreseeable future. Let's bring him on right now. He wants to be brought on by what he goes by on his socials, Toxic Beard 87.
Hey, calm down. Don't hate the smells of it sells.
Hello, my toxic friend. Let me ask you something. With brands like the Elegant Sasquatch Beard Company, why do you choose to smell like a rotten egg on Easter?
It all started when I was 16 years old. My beard was growing like a forest full of pine trees, and it was time for me to find a delicious scent to make Cindy Jo fall in love with me. I found a beard oil in a store, and I thought for sure she was going to be mine. I caked it on, and I was so proud of the way I smelled and how I looked. As soon as I saw Cindy Jo, I went running over to her, but instead of her embracing me and taking me in, she told me to go away and told me I smelled terrible. It was the worst day of my life. It was right then that I vowed that I would never put another product in my beard again. And so here I am, Toxic Beard Guy 87, and I'm not going anywhere.
Well, if I'd gone through that, it'd been tough for me to show my face again, too. But luckily, there's companies like the Elegant Sasquatch Beard Company that have multiple products that'll have girls like Cindy Jo melting in the palm of your hand.
Sasquatch, do you really think that there's a product for me?
Yes, my friend. There are beard balms, beard oils, beard butters, and beard washes that will make your whiskers the talk of the town. You'll be smelling like a dozen roses, and you'll be looking the best you've ever looked.
I would give anything to get Cindy Jo to talk to me just once again. Where can I get this amazing product?
Head on over to elegantsasquatchco.etsy.com and find yourself getting lost in the amount of items that they have to offer, including beard boxes as well, with the full line of some of their favorite products.
There's only one thing left to do. I'm going to go over to Etsy right now, and I'm going to buy as much product as I can, and I'm going to find Cindy Jo, and I'm going to win her over. Thanks again, Squatch.
You heard it here, folks. We changed his mind. Next on the show, we'll have a doll with an eating disorder. Then we'll have squirrels riding skateboards. Till then, head on over to Etsy right now. Tell them that the Scratch the Vinyl podcast sent you.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Wave your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care. It's the local roundup. Lincoln's got a ton going on this weekend, so let's get into it. First off, let's talk about Gray's Keg. Saturday night is going to be rocking. Our friend Chris Dittmer, his band Crazy's on the Block, tribute to Van Halen is going to be there. Also, the band Cry Tough is going to be there as well. What a rocking night. 2 bands, 1 epic party, a night of Poison and Van Halen. That sounds absolutely awesome. You should get there. That is an 8 p.m. show. Sunday at Gray's, they have a Super Bowl party going on. I believe, I'm sure they have looks like they have some food and drink specials and different things. So go there. If you're a Chiefs fan or Eagles fan, try to get along with each other, enjoy the game, and go to Gray's. If you're hungry in between, go to the Tam. The Tam has the best burgers in town. They've got prime rib. They've got specials all the time. I can't say it enough about the Tam. Randy, do you got anything for Madsen's Bowling and Billiards this week?
Well, for our local roundup at Madsen's Bowling and Billiards, Rock and Bowl on Friday night. If you guys come out this Friday night, we got Waco City. So if you're looking for a good country band, come out this Friday night, 8 o'clock to Madsen's Bowling and Billiards. Also, Madsen's is doing this kind of unique thing the following week for Valentine's Day. It's called Love on the Lanes, and it's going to be a live game show. So I think they're still looking for some participants. If you want a chance to win a date and go out on an all-expense paid date with somebody and get matched up, go to Madsen's webpage or stop out and get some info on Love on the Lanes.
That sounds awesome. I'll have to check with my old lady and see if she's cool with me taking part in that. She probably wouldn't be, but for those of you singles out there, it sounds like a pretty good time. We also want to mention the Zoo Bar has massive things going on as well. All weekend long, they've got the Omaha invasion of Lincoln. So no, you don't have to take up arms, but you can go to these shows and support the live music scene in general here in Nebraska. And Omaha is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Lincoln. So go support those bands. Have a great time. And lastly, let's talk about Roots Music Shop. Roots Music Shop is right over there by the campus downtown, and it is the best place to go for you that you just want to go out there and impress a lady. Whatever you want to do, impress your friends, go buy a guitar from Ryan, hold it, carry it with you everywhere, and your cool level will instantly go up. Women will be throwing themselves at you. You'll be the envy of everyone around. Whatever your thing is, go there. Go to Roots Music Shop. Tell Ryan that Scratch the Vinyl sent you. And now let's get back to the list of the 100 best protest songs. Let's get into number 85 right now. We've got Fugazi, which I'm very familiar with. I don't know if Randy is, and the song is Merchandise. And this one is an anti-consumerism song, which, I mean, come on, that's so punk, isn't it? It's so punk to be against consumerism and really anything that's cool at all. And this song sums it up perfectly.
Well, this band walks the walk. I mean, they don't just talk the talk. I mean, they refuse to sell T-shirts for their band. They don't do T-shirts for their shows. They never sign with a major record label. I mean, and now at this point, they even refuse to reunite together and do any more shows to make money.
Well, talk about being against the norm when it comes to music. I mean, these guys just do it for the art. They are those guys. You're right. The guys that sit in the back and they go, why do you have to do it to make money? Why can't you just do it for the art? You said it perfectly. They walk the walk.
Yeah, all they wanted to do was get together, play music, and hope people listen. And if they didn't feel like they had to get rich off of it, they just really wanted to share their sound.
And speaking of their sound, I mean, the reggae, hardcore punk fuse and the style that they do, especially in this, which it's classic for Fugazi fans, but it's just, I don't know. There's something about it. It's almost, to me, when I listen to this type of thing, it's almost like they were inspired by like the Police, and they just took it to the next level, right? Like that's when I hear bands like this, I love that type of thing. Maybe they even gave birth to dubstep. Who knows?
Well, here's how corrupted we are to consumerism is that all I can do is see, one of the best quotes out of this song is, "You're not what you own." I could see that on a T-shirt and we'd all wear it.
Well, us on the opposite spectrum, I would love to print that on a T-shirt and sell it for $1 billion.
Well, hey, you cannot fault these guys for sticking to their principles.
No. Not at all. These guys are a blast. You'll love this. You'll probably tell yourself, I'm gonna dive into Fugazi the rest of the day. And I'm gonna pump my fist in the air. I'm gonna jump around and probably get angry about something, which is what I love.
Well, as we move on to number 84 on the list, I mean, we're getting right back into the culture again. I mean, Dead Prez, song called Thy Schools. I mean, here we are, early 2000s. And I mean, these guys totally talk about whitewashing the school system.
Exactly. I wrote that down too in my notes. Whitewashing was an interesting thing that we both wrote down. But here's a militant rap group and they're Black Southern Americans, and they're just so sick and tired of the established culture of the black man being kicked down and being undervalued. And what this song is really about, and I think you're going to agree, Randy, this song is about the school system too, and how they're teaching the wrong history. They're lying to us. They're not teaching the real history. They're literally whitewashing it to sound better.
Yeah, and they go as far as to, basically this is a song about self-determination. I mean, they talk about even how they promote you to, go to school, get your degree, get a good job. But the bottom line is they want you to, they're basically saying you get those jobs and you're really still just a slave back to the man in the system. I mean, this is the duo of Stickman and M1, and this is just one of many other songs that attacks the, basically the social injustice there in New York, and highlighting their desire to have their own self-determination as the black culture in America.
Well, and back in 2000 when this came out, my friends and I, all being crazy crackers, right? We were into Dead Prez. Dead Prez even did songs with some of the bands that we liked. I can remember, I believe Static X and Dead Prez did a song together, and they really spoke to the anger of some of the youth at that time. And I just think that if you're a white person who's uptight, you might as well tighten your tie a little tighter, and you might want to clutch your pearls, and and your butthole might kind of like implode you with this one, because there's some lyrics in this song that will make you so uncomfortable you'll literally want to burst out of your skin.
This could be a new anthem again for what's happening right now in our society today. I mean, basically, we have a major attack on our education system. Now, will it all get torn back down and rebuilt? Or again, is it just another whitewashing of history and basically throwing up the flag and glossing over the inequity in our society right now?
Right. And Dead President, I mean, they're extremely militant in how, and I don't fault them for how they feel. I don't think anyone's wrong for their feelings. I can definitely see why Native American people, Black people, I can see now Hispanic people in this country, I can see why they're so angry and why they're so frustrated, because you can't lie to me and tell me that there aren't things happening to kick them down in this country, right? I mean, if you get uncomfortable to a song like this, maybe you should start looking at yourself and what you believe and why it makes you feel uncomfortable.
I mean, it's an old cliche. History is written by the winners.
Yep, absolutely. Unfortunately, it is. And unfortunately, the winners usually burn the history of the people who lost, literally.
Well, we're going to move on to the next song in our list. And it's number 83 by an artist that seems to that keeps coming back to us. And her debut album in 1988, Tracy Chapman. The song is talking about a revolution. It's not so far from Fast Car and of course some of her other hits, but this song is probably still, just as we've been talking, is relevant today as it ever has been. Again, it's tackling the economic inequity in our cities.
Talk about aging like a fine wine. Tracy Chapman wrote this when she was a teenager, And her music continues to go through and just gets like people just continue to pick it up and love it. I've really honestly never seen anything like it because I'm not saying Tracy Chapman was popular, but I would say that Tracy Chapman's popularity has grown over the years. And she's literally, the music has just aged so nicely, like a fine wine or a bourbon that's been sitting in a barrel for 100 years. It just gets better and better.
Help me remember, but they redid they redid Fast Car, right?
Yes, Luke Combs did.
Luke Combs, right? Yeah.
Fast Car back.
Right. And then they got together, I think it was at last year's maybe Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they sang together. And man, such a generational icon moment. I just had to throw that out there because I loved it. It was crazy.
I mean, Tracy Chapman, Give Me One Reason is a cover band standard. In every cover band I've ever played in, we've played Give Me One Reason, but there's just so much more to her catalog. So I would suggest to you guys listening, not only I think you should add this to your playlist, I think you should go back and listen to all of Tracy Chapman, and then you come back to us and you're going to agree that Tracy Chapman is a gem and always has been.
Well, a true testament to how this song is still staying relevant is that they were using this as an anthem to as a soundtrack to Bernie Sanders rallies, not long ago when he was trying to run for president. Here's a girl that got on a scholarship in Connecticut at a prep school and basically then wrote about the inequities of society, and that she feels that the poor people are going to have enough and they're going to rise up and they're going to take back what is theirs. And this song may be a prediction of things to come here as we're seeing things change so drastically in our society right now. And I don't know what you think about that, but I think this song has become more and more relevant than we realize.
I think so. This is another one of those songs that completely brushed over me. I had no idea that this was such a classic, but now I do. I would even, dare I say, put this in the hidden gem category when it comes to these songs. I think that this is one of those hidden gems that's going to be a classic for many years to follow.
I agree. I'd never heard it before, but when you listen to it, is right up there with, like I said, her other hits, and still kind of and gives that same message. So it makes sense why that whole album was so successful.
Well, I think talking about this, it brings up a great point when it comes to music in general, which is my favorite part of vinyl, is when you have the physical copy, the fun of it is going out and buying that record, rushing home, blasting the plastic off, looking at the art, popping it on, and just listening to it in its entirety. I think that as much as I love these playlists and the streaming culture, because we can find songs like this, you're in an amazing time right now. You don't have to go buy the vinyl to listen to their whole catalog. And that's what I think people should do to every artist. I think you should listen to, I know Randy and I have talked about this, Brooke has too. I think we should go in and we should listen to albums from start to finish, always, so that you really get an idea of what the artist is trying to say.
Well, if you want me to throw a little something out there that's going off topic just a little bit, but it was kind of like, I don't know if everybody watched the Grammys this last week, but Beyonce gets Country Album of the Year. And if you actually go through and listen to that whole album, there's basically several pop songs on it. I mean, it really wasn't a total country album. I looked at more like Chris Stapleton with that song South Dakota and Trust. I mean, those were country songs, and that was a real country album. And even Casey Musgraves was probably maybe a overall better choice as an overall country album, even though even some of her stuff had a little pop to it. And that's kind of maybe crazy where we have these genres kind of mixing in and out with each other. I know I got off a little bit, but basically, again, going back and listening to a whole album, and there was something to that. And again, Tracy Chapman, this whole album, I mean, you can't argue that every song on that album wasn't her and her basically shining a spotlight on that social inequity in society at that time.
I'm glad you brought this up. Let me pull the gloves out for a second, because I am completely disgusted as a person who has played in a lot of country bands and done a lot of things. This is not country. This is one of those where if you listen to it from cover to cover, Beyonce's album, it's just I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to crap on anybody's art, but you got me fired up here today, so I think we should touch on it. It's not, I would say Post Malone's, go listen to Post Malone's country album. Now that's a country album. It's with country artists. It sounds like country. It might not be your mama's country, but it is country. The Beyonce album is not. And I'm tired of the Grammys getting this stuff wrong year after year for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't even know what the nefarious reason is. But I mean, great for Beyonce. She wins more awards. She can pat herself on the back. She's going to go out and make a bunch more money on her tour, but she's not going to get the support from me.
Well, it's almost like rewarding her for not winning all the other years. Like it was a makeup call in my book. What was her album a few years back? That really was probably should have won album of the year that year. But Adele got it, right?
Yeah.
And why do they have to have it as a makeup call, I think? And then not only get album of the year for country, but album of the year of, I mean, how does Kendrick Lamar win basically, best performance, best video, best song, and all that, and he doesn't win album of the year?
That's what's wrong. And that's why the Grammys have lost a lot of viewership and a lot of people buying into it. It's because they make these stupid calls. And I'm sorry, just you guys you could agree with me if you don't have to, but that wasn't a great album. But I can tell you what is the album that we're talking about right now with Tracy Chapman. That's a great album. That should be higher on the on the list.
All right, I can bring this back full circle because this episode is about our next basically protest songs. I will say this about kind of where we were going. The Weeknd came back to the Grammys this weekend because he was protesting the same thing we're talking about and wanted more transparency to the voting. And well, here you go. He was back. The protest was over.
I love that. The Weeknd, we know you're listening. Come on the show and talk to us about this. Talk to us and get in on this protest songs list. We know that you're listening out there.
Well, we will try not to get too far off topic again. We only have a couple songs left in this 10, and we're at number 82. And this is from a band out of Zimbabwe, Thomas Marfumo. I think I'm saying it right. And the Acid Band with a song called Hakoyo.
Yeah. I loved this song. This song was obviously never anywhere on my radar. So far from the radar, it was basically non-existent until I listened to it. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's very catchy. I didn't even know what they're saying, but just the instrumental and everything about it, I loved it from start to finish. Love this one.
I also liked the song. I thought it was pretty good. It's definitely worth checking out if you're following along with us on this top 100 protest songs list. But really all I got, there was a little background to it that this song was urging the overthrow of the Rhodesian government at the time. And he was jailed for it. And that's what happens when you usually in these countries that you protest against the government, they tend to just throw you in jail.
Since I was going to butcher the the actual lyrics, I'm just going to give you guys some English lyrics, the translation of this. It says, watch out, look, I have a knife, look, I have an axe. They're basically giving you an outright provocation. They're telling you that we are coming, we're tired of this, and we're ready to fight if we have to. This is as protest as it gets.
Yeah, and of course, trying to fight soldiers with guns. So one of the things that I found about this was, he was jailed for many years, and there was still more music coming out, and they were thinking that these were his songs, and they were keeping him in jail because of this protest. But in reality, it was these young kids that were gravitating toward his music and putting out. Basically, they were following in his footsteps and keeping this message alive and keeping the protests alive to fight the oppression of the Rhodesian government.
When sadly, I thought that this was a Native American song, to be honest with you. I don't know much about the language in Zimbabwe, but just the delivery of it and the way it sounded, I honestly thought this was a Native American anthem. It could definitely fit in there in the same vein, but it had that kind of sound. I can't say enough about this song. I had no idea this thing even existed, and this is the fun of the list. Is I can't get enough. I even think about it. Like I think about the instrumental. I think about what they're saying. I find myself tapping my feet and singing the song, and I had no idea what they're saying.
Well, believe it or not, just like we talked last week, is that we were going to tackle this subject, and we thought we were going to be able to do it one episode. We realized that it was going to have to be at least 10 episodes. I mean, here we are at number 81, and by a band that I'm very familiar with, and I know you are too. But this was when I was a junior high. So this was my first taste in 1982, Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills.
Yeah, this is a this is a classic. Randy was in junior high. I was either being born or still in my dad's sack, and when this came out. But I can at least imagine my dad and his buddies were partying in the garage, listening to this one. But I was talking to Randy, I was talking to you about this earlier, this was one of those songs that I've been singing along to forever and had no idea what it was about. Isn't it funny how music's like that? Like, I'm so into music and you are too, and I'm into lyrics, but I never took the time to really see what this was about until this list brought it up. So let's talk about what it's about.
Well, it's basically talking about, the colonization of America by the Europeans, and it's about killing Native Americans and bringing that pain and suffering to an indigenous people that were, living pretty simple lives, and a shout out to them to go run to the hills and hide and fight back.
This was penned with some of the worst history in mind, like the worst recent. I say recent because there's a lot of terrible history, but this one strikes hard to us because we live here. But it's interesting to me that this is a British heavy metal band, and they decided to tackle this song about the colonization and about Native Americans, especially here, when it maybe it didn't even affect them at all.
Well, I have to give a big shout out, and I don't know if he's listening. I have a lot of friends, but, back at that time, my good buddy, Jerry Morningstar, who introduced me to Iron Maiden. And this was kind of really my first introduction to what metal was at the time. You look at where this song has landed on, the all-time list. And I think VH1 has ranked this number 27 on the greatest metal list of all time, but number 14 on basically one of the best hard rock songs of all time. Iron Maiden at all, this song definitely resonates very quickly.
Of course. It's good that you brought up other lists, because it's also important to say that this list is not a popularity contest. We're not talking about the best song. We're talking about the best protest song here. So you may not agree with any of this. You may look at this and go, oh, that's crap, don't buy it. But you have to look at it objectively, and you have to look at it for why they put this list together. Once again, Rolling Stone did a fantastic job, and a lot of work and effort went into putting this list together.
Yeah, let's be honest. We've just finally touched on the bottom 20 songs of this 100 list. And I think probably between me and you, maybe we knew half of them, or we've heard half of them. And we've learned a lot more about the other half. And we still got 80 to go.
Still have 80 to go. It's been an awesome reminder. It's been such a trip and such a treat. I think it's going to be for you guys too. As long as you're playing along at home, I think that you're really going to get the beauty of this. And I'm glad we're doing a 10-part series. We could probably do a 100-part series and we could break down each song, but we're not going to do that. But I'm really glad that we did this, and I can't wait to dive into the next 10.
That's true. I mean, look at what we tackled today. We tackled violence in the hip hop community, again, nuclear anxiety. We tackled plight of our Native Americans. I mean, we always tackle social injustice and civil rights. So, I mean, we just covered another great 10 songs of protests of all time, and look forward to doing the next one. Keep listening.
Well, that completes this week's list. The 10 songs, the bottom 20 we've covered. We'll be getting into the next 10 next time. There's a lot going on. We can't ignore this stuff. Our area is on fire between Lincoln and Omaha when it comes to massive things happening.
Well, we definitely have a lot of things coming up, and we're going to be getting some great new guests coming up here in the near future. I can't wait to, feature some of these people. I mean, this is how this show has just been growing and growing and growing. And again, we've talked about it on several episodes. We just had Jadyn Olsen get through the live auditions and got chairs turned on The Voice this week. It was nice to see Brian back on the show, supporting his daughter. I mean, how can you not love that? I mean, again, representing Lincoln, Nebraska. Jadyn is the lead singer with AM/FM. We had Cole Moore on the show. I mean, it's just everywhere right now.
Yeah, what more could you ask for this area? I mean, our local talent is being highlighted on the national stage. But you actually had a little brush with Brian Olsen at a show, didn't you?
Yeah, I got to talk to Brian right before he went out to LA. He's promising to come on the show soon. But again, look, they've got a lot going on, and we're excited for Jadyn to see how far she can go on this season. We got some great coaches and a new lineup for this season. John Legend's back. We got Kelsey Ballerini. Adam Levine is back after 10 season hiatus. Michael Bublé, one last season, back to do it again. I like the vibe. We're starting to see some really, really good artists, and it's nice to see Lincoln getting very well represented and Nebraska being represented, on all these seasons. So,
well, they got me watching The Voice again. I was out for many years, but then when Brian was in, and then now with Jadyn in, it's got me back to watching it. So it made me re-love the show. I'll always root for our local people. And I think the rest of you guys, there are other musicians out there. I think most of you guys do too. Maybe there's some of you guys that are haters, but the rest of us actually care about the whole scene. And this is great for it.
And not just that, I don't know if you saw, but Pasty Jenny has a song shooting up on the indie charts right now.
They do and this is a massive list. I don't know if you know about this, but the secondary rock chart market is a huge list. I mean, this is where you get all these. I mean, they're up there in the top 20 with Papa Roach, with Linkin Park, 10 Years, Breaking Benjamin. Do you recognize any of those bands? Yes, you do. 3 Days Grace. These are Falling in Reverse. These are all huge bands right now. And good old Pasty Jenny is shooting up the list with their song Jesus and Guns. And I'm just so proud of them. I know them signing with Cranked Up Records and all of that, shooting videos. Their drummer actually was a drummer in one of my early bands, cover bands, Cody. And so I couldn't be more proud of these guys. I think we should be paying attention to them. I'm glad you brought it up, Randy.
Well, again, just want to give a big shout out to all of our local artists that are doing well and representing us really well. And again, Love to hear from you guys. I think I got one last shout out before we get out of here. If you don't mind, Cain, we have a benefit coming up this weekend for Jeff Runnings, who is in a band called For Against. And I encourage you guys all that if you've ever loved indie post-punk rock scene, these guys were awesome. Jeff has put together some great music over the years, and unfortunately he is suffering from stage 4 cancer, and he just is releasing a new album this year, which probably looking at will probably be the last music put out by Jeff. And we really have condolences for him, but just really want to say, man, thanks for the great music you have put out over the years. And I really think your fans are going to love this new album. I got a little taste of a couple of the songs they have put out already to give a little taste of what's happening. But look for that album from For Against, Jeff Runnings.
Well, before we go, I have something to share too. A former guest of ours, Andrew Stanley from Allie and I, he was messaging back and forth to me, and it's the 10-year anniversary of his Imaginary Hearts album, which is my favorite of his. And honestly, what's crazy is we had him on the show. I'd never listened to his music before, and I became like a super fan. Like I started geeking out. I talked to him all the time about it. And that is my favorite. Well, he's releasing 100 printed vinyl albums here coming pretty soon. So get over there to Allie and I and talk to him and get on that now while supplies last, because they're going to go fast. This is a 10-year anniversary of it. He did it here at Fuse Records. And I can't think of another great artist that we should be supporting. So I hope you guys get a hold of those albums before they go. I'm definitely getting a copy.
I will say, last but not least, I do realize I have one more, and I think I gave you a copy yesterday, and it's a local band called La Perm. Our buddy Levi Bradis, we're going to get on the show here next month, just put out their new album, and I had a chance to listen to all their music. You guys, you're going to love this album. It's got some really, really good songs, and they play locally here at the zoo a lot. Check them out if you get a chance.
Yeah, Randy gave me a copy of the album, and my FM transmitter in my car took a crap on me, and so I was pumped because I had this CD. I have a CD player in there still. Pop that baby in, listen to it. This thing's a gem, and I love the name. La Perm just feels great to me.
The name of the album, The Cat Lady.
The album's awesome, though. I can't wait to talk to Lee and get him on here. I know we've been kind of wanting to plan that, but look at what we're saying here, everybody. There's so much going on in this town, in the surrounding areas, that you honestly don't have anywhere else to go. One little shout out I have is I did create a new playlist in addition to the Scratch the Vinyl podcast playlist on Spotify, which is called Homegrown Nebraska. And so now I've been listening to all Nebraska artists, and I've been adding those in there. So if you're a Nebraska artist and you want your songs in there, then please get a hold of me, and I'll listen to everything you did, and I'll probably hug myself. And then after I do that, I'm going to add it to the list. So check out that Homegrown Nebraska playlist on Spotify.
All right, Cain, let me wrap this up. You guys, thanks for listening to Scratch the Vinyl. I'm Mr. Chill, Randy Wilson with Cain Stevens. We'll see you next week.
Scratch the vinyl.